Hey, this is Kelly. You're listening to a conversation with Nick Knudsen and Lori Coleman from DemCast on Two Broads Talking Politics.
Are you listening?
Hey everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, and I'm on today with two returning guests who have an exciting project to talk about. So joining me today is Nick Knudsen. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Kelly.
And Lori Coleman. Hi, Lori.
Hey, Kelly.
So I am super excited to talk to you guys about DemCast. Before we get started about talking about exactly what DemCast is, though, why don't we talk about sort of the why of DemCast? So, what's the background here? What was the reason for starting this DemCast project? Were there problems you were trying to solve? Sort of lay the groundwork for us.
Sure. I'll take a crack. Lori, step in if I'm missing anything. But a major factor in us deciding that we needed this intervention is the information war. To be frank, we have to adapt to this age of information warfare. Donald Trump gets this. The GOP is behind him, and the right is way ahead on this front. He outspent Clinton significantly on social media because his campaign gets now and got then that digital is the new frontier of campaigning. It's 24/7, 365. So, they, with, of course, a strong assist from Vladimir Putin, they really just attacked America with images, videos, and propaganda nonstop, and it worked. And what I've seen is a reticence on the left to really jump in here and meet them on the battlefield. So part of this is just about there needs to be a lot of smart content, tightly packaged, thoughtful images, videos, and articles and other sort of digital artifacts that can help to sway people and that they'll see. So that's a big piece. Another piece of why we see the need for this is the death of local media. Mm-hmm. There's Sinclair is taking over all the local affiliate stations, and tons of longstanding community newspapers just don't have they're folding, or they're sort of giving themselves over to the need to produce clickbait to get the clicks that they need on their sites to drive traffic so that they can get ad revenue. The model is just not helpful for sharing the kind of information that would actually help people. It's sort of all about sensationalism. So that's another major thing. And then the last thing I'll say is just my experience in the midterms. So I'm a writer, and I started a blog in early 2018 that it's called Dim Right Press, and I really just started it for myself. But as soon as I started it, people just started coming out of the woodworks asking if they could contribute to the site, because they saw that when I posted something on the site, it got pretty good traffic. We sort of intentionally spread the content via social media channels, and so just activists from across the country who were passionate about the candidates that they were following or the causes that they were supporting, wanted to have a platform that would help their stuff get out there. So that's another major piece that goes into the DemCast model.
Great. And so now that we've sort of talked about why DemCast, let's talk about what DemCast is. What is it? How's it going to work? So, talk me through what this is.
Sure. Yeah. So DemCast is a hybrid digital approach. So it will be, we're building, but it will be both a publishing platform and a dedicated social media strategy. And basically the idea here is that we sort of galvanize grassroots activists who are creators, whether they're creating podcasts or like yourself, or articles, writing, graphics, videos, whatever, and give them sort of centralized place to put their stuff so that it can get seen. There are various options out there for this right now. Not, I think, any that really are great spots to put multiple different types of media forms, which is something that we're going for with this. But basically, the mission of DemCast is actually around raising the voices of grassroots activists. Literally, the mission is to cultivate, amplify, and maximize the impact of grassroots digital media, bolstering blue electoral and policy victories at all levels of government across America. So it's really sort of taking advantage of the energy on the left and using it to our advantage electorally. And so during the summer and fall of 2019, we will be completing the development of this publishing platform. It'll be custom built to optimize social media sharing. And when it launches, it'll host all those different kinds of media that I'd mentioned previously, podcasts, articles, videos, all produced by grassroots activists. And it will also feature a meme and graphics library, which will give social media activists a place to go and find really good visuals to help carry their message, whatever their message may be. If you do a Google search of, say, Nancy Pelosi or AOC and put the word meme next to it, if you go over to the image results, it's all right-wing stuff. They are way ahead on this, and they've sort of taken over the meme war. The idea here is to have our own library so that the stuff can be more easily accessible. And then, just sort of as an aside, people who do contribute will retain all rights to their work. DemCast isn't meant to be, we're not trying to take over the media space or sort of start getting credit for everybody else's work. It's really, DemCast is really a piece of infrastructure that can help boost voices on the left. So people can throw up their PayPal account or whatever account they use to if they ask for contributions from readers, and we'll honor all of that, and even sort of source branding from their websites if they have their own websites. And another quick feature that I'll mention, and then maybe Lori can talk about the other half of the project, is a boot camp on the site that'll offer training for activists. We want to give people, not just give people a platform, but help them improve their craft. So if they're creators, have sort of workshops and peer-driven conversations around how to write a more persuasive essay, how to cover an election, how to create a killer Twitter post. There's endless ways that we could all be improving our craft to help carry the message better. So we're really excited about the boot camp and gotten some really good feedback about a need for that going forward. I guess the last thing I'll say before switching over to Lori is that this is really about getting local. We want to make sure that this isn't going to be another place, because all the platforms are going to be talking about the presidential election. That's really not going to be the focus of this effort. It's really meant to bring out local voices, and we need to, because of the SCOTUS decision on gerrymandering, because of the fact that the right wing and the GOP has taken over so many state legislatures, and the impact of that, we really need to focus local and help to give sort of exposure and voice to those people running for the state legislature or local races, and also, of course, the House and Senate races. So there'll be kind of this state feel, where we want to create sort of little DemCast communities within, well, hopefully big DemCast communities within states of sort of creative activists who are producing content on this front. So that's the setup for the content side. And then once we have the content, we want to make sure that it gets seen. So that's where the social media piece kicks in, and maybe Lori could talk about that.
Sure, I'd be glad to. And I think alluding to what Nick was talking about as far as why we need DemCast, we saw, along with the rise of Trump and Trumpism, we definitely saw a rise of people who rejected those principles, laws, policies. And, on Twitter, it's the rise of the resistance, of course. We saw that in 2017, and then really what we did was we saw people come together in 2018 to flip the house. Mm-hmm. And we saw groups kind of organized together. We saw state rooms coalesce around each other, candidate rooms on Twitter specifically, and how can we support our candidates on social media. And there is a real passion for this need to work in the digital space for our candidates, for our issues, for our organizations. It's just that the organizing piece isn't there. Or it's lacking, particularly in some states and around certain issues. So in looking at having great content, that we want to be able to be the place where content creators can come and share their information. The second part of that is, how do you get it out? Because if it sits on a website somewhere and is never seen by anybody, then it's not helpful. So the goal here would then be to organize based off of around the state. So it would be a 50-state strategy. We will have a series of captains for each state that will be focused on recruiting and training social media volunteers across multiple platforms, identifying content creators within the state and mentoring them, cross-posting their material, and then also partnering with local grassroots organizations on the ground. And if you think about like Indivisible, where indivisible groups are generally organized by congressional districts within a state, we've seen some indivisible groups take off and do just really well and post content. And then we have, some indivisible groups that haven't been as successful or have really needed more support. And so because we want to provide that mentoring, that not so much oversight, but resources and education to help people be effective digital activists. And this doesn't exclude them from being on the ground, campaign warriors, canvassing, get out the vote efforts. All of those things are incorporated into their DemCast experience, and that they'll be encouraged to share those things as other content is also produced. So it's really getting that digital army focused and getting their tools and the right content in their hands to be able to share.
Yeah, and for anyone who's ever produced content like me, you know how hard it can be sometimes to get people to notice that it's there. And just the little things we've started to do, like having people, share each other's content is already extraordinarily helpful in that. What's sort of the timeline for rolling this out? Some of the pieces are already in place. Some will take a little bit longer, but what's sort of the trajectory for where you're going here?
Yeah, we're really excited that in the next few weeks we are going to be doing kind of a soft launch of DemCast. We are incorporating as a 501c4 nonprofit organization, and we are going to kind of go public with the model on sort of largely via social media in the next couple of weeks, sometime in early August, and start recruiting. One of the major sort of reasons that we need to sort of get going is that we need to start building these state teams that Lori was talking about. We need to find the state leadership who are going to help source content producers and social media activists within all 50 states. So that's going to be sort of the first round of recruitment for volunteers in August. But we'll also start just generally recruiting for all of the other roles, like the social media amplification and creators and some other roles too that'll be on the website. After that initial soft launch, we're going to be working with a web development firm to build the site itself, the DemCast site, where all the content will eventually be, and that'll be up. We're hoping by sometime in November, so that we have a full year to implement this before the 2020 election. And I'll just say this is not meant to be a one-hit wonder. We're building this so that it can be infrastructure that we can iterate and improve and build upon for many, many electoral cycles beyond 2020. But 2020 certainly is extremely important. And then hopefully, come December, and certainly by the time primaries roll around, we've got a machine that's churning content and getting it out there via social channels.
So if people are listening to this and thinking, oh, that sounds really interesting, I want to get involved, what are the ways that they should start to learn a little bit more and reach out so that they can get involved? What are the kinds of roles that they should be thinking about in terms of what they might want to do?
Sure. Well, we have the domain, DemCastUSA.com. So you can go to www.DemCastUSA.com. And it actually, at the current moment, is redirecting to my blog site where we've set up a launch page for the initiative. Eventually, once we have the site built, it'll direct people there. But there's lots of probably too much information on the launch site. We've got sort of a model overview. We've got for organizations that may want to partner with us, local grassroots groups. There's a page describing the benefit of partnership and an interest form for organizations that want to partner. And then there's a join us page or a volunteer page that explains the various roles that people might want to take up. This is going to be a very, very the vast majority of this is volunteer driven. We need to have a few crucial centralized roles, but just to make sure that the mechanics work for this. But we're looking forward to recruiting and working with volunteers from across the country who are really already doing a lot of this stuff. This is just sort of an effort to bring it all together. But like I said, as for roles, that DemCaster role, the social media amplifier, is going to be a major one. We're going to, if one of the benefits of this model is if it's very inclusive. If you can hit that retweet button, or if you can share a post on Facebook or Instagram,
or if you're willing to learn.
Or if you're willing to learn, exactly, and we'll have training available. Then you can be part of DemCast. You can volunteer however much time you have available to help spread content from the site and to help work with the state teams who are working on sort of messaging for each state. So definitely that's we're gonna need as many folks on the amplification side as possible to make this really effective. We've got we want to incorporate podcasts. We want to have a family of DemCast podcasts, and we're heavily recruiting Kelly, and hopefully Too Broad Talking Politics will be sort of a flagship DemCast podcast.
You don't have to say hopefully. Yes, we're willing to.
Okay. But more like that, and we want to sort of curate some of the best grassroots voices out there who are doing interesting audio projects, video bloggers, writers, certainly writers, and graphic artists who are willing to take that talent that they have and turn it toward creating graphics that have succinct messages that can be spread across social media. So definitely the creator roles, and then those state captain roles, both social media state captains and the content state captains. If you're interested in sort of taking a leadership role in your state on the digital side, DemCast will be a really interesting and cool way to do that. And we're also going to be looking for outreach coordinators for people who who aren't creators or social media pros, but who are very, very networked in within their state as far as grassroots groups go. We're going to have outreach coordinators who are basically taking the DemCast message to grassroots groups around their state and trying to get some buy-in to get those groups involved and excited about sharing their media on the site. That's some of them. There's more. You can go to the website to the Join Us page and learn about some other roles. But there really should. I mean, if you're passionate about helping to turn things around in this country and you're interested in sort of the digital side of things, then you'll probably go there and see something that resonates with you.
So then let's talk a little bit about money. You mentioned a lot of this will be volunteer driven, but obviously some of these things cost money. Website design and hosting obviously cost money. A couple of key roles will be important. So what's the model for fundraising, and why should people invest in something like this? There's a lot of people who are giving a lot of money to a lot of places. I think, I worry sometimes about donor fatigue, but why is this a good thing for people to invest in?
Well, maybe I'll start, but Lori, jump in. I think that DemCast is a really good investment because the idea here is that a rising tide lifts all boats. We want, the purpose of this initiative is it's to amplify the voices of grassroots activists primarily, but especially around political change. And we need to flip state houses. We need to flip seats. We need to flip the presidency. We need to flip Senate. And all of that needs to happen. And DemCast is a very, very sort of nimble and forward-thinking kind of way to do that, to help to do that. DemCast itself is not going to solve our country's problems.
Oh man!
But we do. I mean, we obviously feel very strongly that it's necessary, that we need to meet the right on the digital battlefield. We need to cultivate the voices of our activists so that we can drive the conversation, or at least have a better shot at driving the conversation. There's nothing clickbait about DemCast. DemCast won't have ads. DemCast won't have corporate sponsors. There will be no special interest influence on the site. It's just grassroots voices. But of course, to make that possible, we need funding. And sort of our gamble here is that people will see the benefit of participating in this kind of collaborative, sort of basically a media co-op on the left, and will give what they can when they can to help make sure that this infrastructure is in place, and help support the voices of their fellow activists across the country. So it's going to be very largely grassroots, small dollar grassroots donation driven. I think ultimately once the site is up, our hope is that people basically subscribe to the site, like they would to Washington Post or any other sort of digital media site. There will never be a paywall. If it can't, we're not going to do ads. We're not going to do a paywall. If we can't get enough money to make this happen, then it won't. But I think that we're gonna maintain that integrity. We don't want, the purpose of this is to get information out, so it will be completely publicly accessible. But the hope is that we can get some regular monthly donors, very small dollar donors to help sort of sustainability and funding into the future. And I think as we turn over the calendar year and as the site goes up and the primaries start in earnest, I hope and expect that the grassroots will see the value and and contribute.
So I'd like to add just a couple of things to that. I think, some of the questions I've had are, why would I give money to you guys instead of a campaign? And kind of along what Nick was saying, that rising waters lift all boats, but you would have the opportunity to help promote blue messaging across the whole country by giving to DemCast, because we're going to have that full 50-state model. So your dollars could go a long way towards spreading the word for blue candidates all across the country at all levels of government, because we're going to be local and state focused. It's going to be a huge time for our legislatures, and we have some real opportunities to make sure that we don't, have super red majorities, or that we could flip some legislatures. But those are the races that typically don't get a lot of love and don't get a lot of press, particularly in a presidential election year. So this is really a great opportunity for a small amount of money to really invest across the whole country and multiple races. I always like those, Act Blue pages where I can, split my money amongst, 5 or 6 candidates who seem like they might have a real chance at running. And this would be the ability for you to get a huge return on your money, because it's not going to buy a TV spot, and it's not going to buy a radio ad. It's going to promote messaging for all kinds of candidates and issues across the country. So I think it's really a great buy. If I'm going to spend my campaign money, I don't know about y'all, but I have a budget for how much money I can give candidates. And I'm stingy with that. I want to give it to the right people who are having the right message that I think I could really make a difference with. And so finding something like this is really important. Also on the financial side, we are very committed to being transparent about where our money comes from and where it's going. And we want the grassroots to feel very comfortable that they know where our money is going, and that's going to be on infrastructure for this movement. So our focus has to be on educating the public as that social organization as a 501c4, and that's really our goal, is to spend that money very wisely on the infrastructure so that we can get those messages out and that they're easily accessible for everyone. That's one thing I love about this model, is that you don't have to be a formal member of DemCast to use our resources. They're there for anybody who wants to use them. If you want to sign up, then the training and the mentorship that we'll provide you will be, above and beyond what you can access on the site. So I'd encourage anybody who's listening to go to the Join Us page on DemCast. There's a survey you can fill out, and it can give you all sorts of levels of participation and interest. And that way, we will be looking at those people who are interested in helping. I think, you can find that you can make a big difference in a couple hours a week volunteering with us, all the way up to, as much time as you want to spend. So it's very, very helpful for us to have a huge volunteer pool. The other thing about the financial side is that, in looking at how the current party structure funds campaigns and funds advertisements, you'll see that we continue as a Democratic Party to really focus on print and TV. And, Trump gets it that that's not where the people are anymore. I can't tell you how many people I know that don't even have cable subscription anymore, so they don't even see an ad, right?
Yeah.
If they got something in the mailbox, they might or might not pay attention to it. But if it's on their social media feed over and over again, and they get that visual of why it's important to vote for this person, or why this person believes this way, or if you don't, if we don't have this legislation, who's at risk? Is it you? Is it your family? So getting those truthful messages out there to counterbalance that the meme war, the information war that's going on, is a tiny amount of money compared to the money that they dump into TV and radio and print ads. But they don't understand that. So, if they won't do it, we'll just have to do it ourselves. So that's why we need everybody to pitch in and help us with that and really show the establishment people, this is where it's at now. This is where we're going to win now. And if it's not the whole thing, it's certainly a very important part of the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori, for closing that way. And we don't want to freak anybody out about how badly we're losing the sort of the digital war. But we've been talking to a lot of people, as we've been sort of floating this idea around and looking for, startup funds or funds to help build the site. And man, the establishment is really, they're just not here yet. And we're freaked out about it, to be honest. I mean, it's scary, and we really really do have to do this ourselves because they are not doing this. So yeah, so it's okay to be a little freaked out. We are too.
Well, and I think and hope that anyone who's been listening to this podcast for a while understands the importance of, even small progressive voices amplifying the voices of, state legislature candidates and school board candidates. And, we've seen a big difference in what it can make to candidates when they just come on our podcast and, get shared on social media. So I think it's something that is going to be really, really important going into 2020 and then definitely beyond. I think everyone is really focused on 2020, but we've seen that even when Democrats are in power, they're not always going to do what we want. And so even if we win 2020, we still need to keep pushing and keep highlighting what's going on and never get complacent.
Yep.
All right. Well, Nick and Lori, thank you so much for all the work you're doing on this. And thanks for coming on the podcast. I hope a lot of people will come your way. Everyone who listens regularly, I'm sure you'll be hearing more about DemCast moving forward. We'll certainly be sharing a lot on our social media about it as it rolls out more. So thank you, and can't wait to see what comes.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Wethlin and was created for use by this podcast.